We went around sa pagbukas ng klase this year, no? Or last year. And we found teachers nga nagamba nga pag-ulang ka muna ka pang photocopy sang modules. And then they would say nga kay bag-ulang gabi nag-abot ang budget ng international. Which is quite sad, no? Because like what you've said, no one wants to talk about it. And I am wondering why the insistence to really make it a very top-heavy decision-making. Is it mainly because education is still an ideological tool and the state does not want to let go of it?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the reason. Essentially, it's the way the Department of Education is organized, is structured. Kakwan sobra pa ni siya kung gisa sa army mo. Sa army, chief of, Chief of Staff, tapos general, what's next? Colonel, lieutenant, etc. May, tawag mo?
May hierarchy.
Hierarchy, may kwan of command.
Chain of command.
Chain of command. Hindi gusto maghulag to sa dalom without a direct command from the higher rank officer.
But the army is better. Kaya kung ang kontra-ara na, hindi ka na ito yung mamangkot sa chief of staff, tiruhon ko na hindi.
Yeah, correct, no? In the case of DepEd, kwan pagyapon, it's still very hierarchical, the chain of command. So, in fact, you will probably find many school heads who would be apprehensive about taking their own initiative. Nga wala kabalo ang supervisor or ang superintendent kasi maakigan pa. But we have many outstanding public schools, elementary schools, that have become outstanding precisely because of the initiatives of the school head or principal and the cooperation of the teachers and the Parent-Teachers Association. So makita mo gid nga where there is autonomy and initiative at the local level, mas effective ang education system.
How does corruption play a role in that?
Ang corruption sa idalom, I think, is very minimal. Petty, you might even say, no? If at all. Siguro ang corruption dito sa babaw where you have, the huge purchases of books, of school furniture, construction of schools, etc. No? There is a idalom, I think, corruption is not a real problem. Okay? It is more ang getting the resources that you need in order to do what's needed. And very often, ang resources from the top kulang. Like amo tong siling mo ang materials, no? Gahulat pa to sa babaw nga matupa ang budget. What did the schools do? They talk to the mayor, the local school board. Kinlanlan na mo niyo, we have to produce this now because manog sugod na. So ang mayors, the local school boards, allocated, as I said, throughout the country, billions of pesos to produce the materials in time for distribution.
Unfortunately, come election time, ang mayor gagasto anay. Pero pag abot sang eleksyon, mahambal ang kontra sang mayor ng incumbent, siya pabor ng mga maestra sa mayor.
Yeah, that's true.
But then the situation is, you are actually seeking help from them without the elections.
Well, this brings up one particular position I've always taken, and that is that teachers should not be given election duties. Okay? For several reasons. One, they have too much work to do already. Okay? Hatagan mo sila assignment sa election, it's a big burden on them. Number two, it creates a situation where, manang siling mo, mayors feel that critical nga factor ang teachers So, ang attitude sang mayor is kinlanlan tani mabutang ang aton teacher. Kung kinlanlan ta mausar sila during elections, then basi mausar ta, no? It exposes the teachers to unnecessary pressure. Okay? Aside from the unnecessary workload, no? Then, ang teachers who know that this is a problem, damo ni si ila hungod nga ma-disqualify from election duty para nga ma-avoid ang problema. Because the third problem, I forgot to mention, is kung mag-abot ang reklamo sang napirde, sino una ginabasol sa dayay? Ang teachers, ang election, ano tawag na sila? The electoral board.
Election,
nila, which are all DepEd. So ang atong napirde kasi gindaya kami amo ni silang basulod, no? So to avoid all of this, many teachers are looking for ways to be disqualified from serving in the elections. How do they do it? A direct relative will run for barangay captain or for some other position. Kasi sila I have to be disqualified may direct relative ko nga kandidato eh. Basi maakusahan pa ko daw.
Kaya ang una ginabasol ang Board of Election Inspectors.
Yeah, correct.
Which includes them.
So, I've always felt that teachers should be exempted from election duties. Let them teach. In fact, I'm also saying teachers should be allowed to teach only. Kadamo sang iban nga ginaobra. And that will improve the length of time that they give sa face-to-face nila with the pupils.
And what I've noticed, especially now sa pandemic, ang teachers are not simply teachers. They in fact become the frontliners sa psychosocial support.
Yes. Many times they become the parents.
And what is funny is this, talking to some teachers. Damo beses nga ang imo nga psychologist sa eskwelahan, kisa gani, wala. And then they do the counseling.
Yeah.
And then I ask them, gina-debrief ka mo, wala? Siya, wala. So imagine ang accumulated nga vicarious trauma. Kung isa ka classroom da, 40 man masugid sa imo.
Yeah.
So there's a problem with the mental health.
I think it's beginning to be recognized as a real problem. But there is no, ano tawag mo? The resources are not being made available to address that problem. There's overload na eh. The system is overloaded. So,
The system is overloaded.
diri na nagapangita sang solusyon sa dalom, sa local level. At the local school board, the school governing council. For example, no, I remember when my cousin was mayor sa Murcia.
Si Sunny.
Si Sunny. Of course, and kung na to, active na tong Synergeia. Common problem, kulang materials, workbooks, ang mga estudyante. Wala budget ang DepEd mo. So, if you want to improve the reading skills of the pupils, nami ginatagan mo sila workbooks and let them have their own workbook, reading, math, English, etc. So that they can work on this themselves. In the classrooms, ginaabrihan ng workbook, etc. Teacher matudlo, pagpuli, abrihan nililiwat, hopefully tudloan sang parents. Di kung wala ka workbook karon anon mo. So si Sunny, nagsilingti, kagamay man lang sa akon special education fund. At that time, I think he was looking at something like 3 million. Pila 20-25% pa na makadto sa palaro, sports and culture. So what did he do? He looked for donors. In one particular case, ang isa ka eskwelahan, public school, located inside an hacienda. Damo na siya diri sa aton. There are many schools located inside haciendas. So, ganambal yung tag-iya sang hacienda. O, laban nga kabataan na, diri kabataan sang imo obrero. Why ni sila tanan workbook?
Di pa donate photocopier.
Pwede ka donar. Sa naintindihan, sang tag-iya sang asyenda, tuod ka, magli ng sitwasyon, in-cover niya ang cost of workbooks. Outright. No? So, if all the local school boards and school governing councils learn how to do this, resource mobilization kag makapangita sang local donors to cover the gaps, you can imagine how much will be covered.
But these are inventive solutions ang ginapush nyo.
Sa subong na sa amon experience, it's no longer innovation but necessity. Ginahambalanan na sila tanan. You have to look for your local stakeholders and get them involved in solving your problems.
But what you are encouraging stakeholders to do actually is not rocket science.
No, it's not.
It's practical solutions.
Just making them aware nga may problema kita and we are part of the solution. Ang aton attitude kasi before was, ang common nga sabat sang ginikanan ginpadala ko man ganing akon kabataan sa eskwelahan para magtuon. Nga karon ibalik nyo sa akon.
Which is a fair question.
Di ba? Ang attitude sang ginikanan, makadto ka sa eskwelahan para magtuon. Ang obligasyon sang ginikanan, wala naton ma-emphasize. Now, again, that is compounded by the problem of subliterate parents or illiterate parents. No? In the case of areas where there is that problem.
Ang problema pa, ang obligasyon tani, nga pakaunon sila mayo, nga iya sang ginikanan, hindi man mahimo sang ginikanan.
Correct, no? So, that's why, like for example, when we begin the process of education reform, we call the local school board. Okay? Gina-orient ini sila. We ask them to first understand what is the local school board, what are the resources available to you, and then what are the problems of the public education system. Basi wala nyo makita. And then, we ask them, during a workshop, can you define kung anong gusto nyo makita sa kabataan? Anong inyo goal for your children? They will all say, of course, we want our children to be well educated. Then we ask them, what are the obstacles towards achieving that goal? So damo na gagwa. What are the main obstacles? Teacher quality or teaching quality. Poverty. Malnutrition. Poor health. Okay? Lack of facilities in the schools. So many things, no? So gina-emphasize ko na perme the learning achievement tripod. The school, the teachers, or the quality of teaching, and the child. The circumstances surrounding the child. You take one, matumba ang tripod. Di ba? May tripod kita. A tripod on two legs will not stand. Okay? So, nanong problema? Sa teachers. Teacher quality. Resources available to the teachers. Okay? So, if you don't address that problem, may problema ka. The school, kulang facilities. Okay? So many related problems, distance, etc. But ang circumstances surrounding the child, poverty, malnutrition, illiterate parents, peace and order, distance to school, etc. Pamangkutundahin sila, okay, which of these problems can you solve?
On your own.
On your own. Di dahil ma-realisar dahil sang tanan, dili lang. Ang eskwelahan, problema sang DepEd. Okay? Ang teachers, problema man sang DepEd. What about the circumstances surrounding the child? Malnutrition, illiterate parents, distance from school, peace and order,
Pwede
poverty,
bululigan.
etc. Sino masolbar sila? Okay? Then masiling sila, tuod, no? So, permi kami gasiling, you cannot expect DepEd to solve all of these problems. Klaro na. Ang bata niyo, how do you solve the problem of the child? that is outside na the scope or the ability of DepEd to address. So ginapa-intindi na sa local school board. You have to address these three main components. And then measure the results on an annual basis kung pwede. Because very often, we don't measure or we hide the results.